and welcome back, our dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review for today, Sunday, the 6th of December 2015. And we start our press digest from Al Ahram. The habilitation of both the irrigation and the sewage grids. President Sisi says make use of the water of the heavy rain in irrigation. The president tackles with Mughazi the urgent plan to increase the capability of the irrigation and sewage grids to face the heavy rain. Sisi praises the irrigation projects and praises the usage of the state-of-the-art methods to rationalize the usage of water and to make the utmost use of it. Concluding 7% from the new Asyut barrage at the cost of 4 billion Egyptian pounds, inaugurating 26 water projects this month at the cost of 1.5 billion Egyptian pounds. President Sisi met on Saturday with the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources, Hossam al-Mughazi. During the meeting, Mughazi reviewed the irrigation projects implemented by the ministry, especially the urgent ones to promote the sanitary drainage networks and irrigation stations into two provinces of Alexandria and El Bahira. Presidential spokesman Ala Youssef said that the president gave his instructions to accomplish work in these provinces as quickly as possible to avoid any negative impacts of the bad weather there. The president also discussed with Mughazi the preparations of the ministerial meeting due to be held in Khartoum with the Sudanese and Ethiopian sides to follow on the situation of the Renaissance Dam on both the political and technical levels and fronts.
And we move to another issue from El Masri Al-Yom, page 5, where we read a three-way summit for El-Sisi in Athens, signing agreements between Egypt, Greece and Cyprus in the fields of energy, transportation and the linkage of ports. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is to begin his 36th foreign tour the day after tomorrow. The president is to visit the Greek capital, Athens. The two-day visit is to witness an Egyptian-Greek Cypriot summit. And still with the same issue, but this time from Al-Yom Al-Saba, Mahi.
Yes, Nermeen. Sisi in Athens on Tuesday. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to meet with the Greek president and its participation in the Egyptian-Greek Businessmen Forum on the first day of his two-day official visit to Athens. During the visit, the head of state is to tackle means of enhancing cooperation between Egypt, Greece and Cyprus. Of course, Nermeen, it's a very important visit by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Athens. We have seen many meetings before between the Egyptian
it's not the first time
the
to have this tripartite summit, I may say.
So it's a very important move on the foreign relations front.
And when it comes to business and the economy, as far as we know, that even American Secretary of State John Kerry hailed the economic performance of Greece recently. And regarding Greece and Cyprus, when they come together and with the Egyptian new way of building foreign affairs on mutual interest, I think that we can develop those relations and we can benefit from those relations to build those relations on mutual interests and to have a win-win situation.
Yes,
this is now, I think, our attitude. Back to Al Ahram.
Yes, Nermeen, and you can read the...
Yeah, to Al Ahram front page, where we read, Egypt shares 3 committees at the UN Security Council, a session to tackle combating Daesh on the 17th of December. Egypt is the head of 3 committees at the UN Security Council, including the committee tasked with combating terrorism. Egypt has been chosen unanimously to head the Committee of Anti-Terrorism at the UN Security Council as soon as Cairo starts its membership in the Council at the beginning of January. Still with the same issue from Al-Yom Al-Saba at this time?
Yes, of course. And we read Egypt, the head of the committee assigned to combat terrorism at the UN Security Council, Cairo wins the chairmanship of the 3 committees, and the Foreign Ministry says the move reflects the confidence of the international community in Egypt. Egypt has been unanimously chosen by the 15 member states of the UN Security Council to chair the Anti-Terrorism Committee when it assumes its seat at the Council next month. The committee, which was established after the September 11 attacks, is one of the most important committees that the UN set up to counter terrorism. Egypt's permanent envoy to the UN, Amr Abu al-Ata, will chair the anti-terrorism panel.
For Egypt on the international arena, and we are expecting more. In fact, our diplomacy is in one of its best eras.
Yes, and we have to hail here the work of the foreign ministry and the work
and his men.
Of course, the foreign ministry as a whole, in order to combat the terrorism, in order to restore the Egyptian position in the whole world, not only on the international front, on the Western front, and on the African front as well, which has been neglected for many years.
And to have our relations, to diversify our relations, whether inside Africa or to the other side of the Mediterranean, as we may say. For example, in those 2-day visit of our top diplomat, Sameh Shoukry, who is currently in Johannesburg participating or attending the Africa-China summit, he had on the sidelines of the summit or of the forum a lot of meetings with his counterparts from Sudan, South Africa, Niger, Morocco, Uganda. So a lot of
and he was
activities.
Just back from his visit to Japan and Korea. So we are seeing
and when he was here, he had also another meeting with the Syrian opposition and to have a share in what the Syrian opposition is going to do in those very serious and crucial talks are going to take place in Riyadh, inshallah, in few days. I think it's going to be on Tuesday, inshallah. And even he had a phone call when he was there in Johannesburg with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, also to tackle the Syrian issue or the Syrian crisis. So a lot of activities.
Yes, so we have to hail these efforts exerted by the foreign ministry in order to restore the Egyptian position and give Egypt its strength and its weight in the whole region and arena, Nermeen.
Back to Al-Ahram and the main banners, or one of the main banners from its front page, we read, at the end of the China-Africa summit in Johannesburg, Egypt calls for an international coordination to face the economic and security challenges. During the Egypt speech before the second China-Africa summit, Sharif Ismail, our prime minister, says the world is facing an unprecedented challenge that requires enhancing the regional and international coordination. Egypt is looking forward to enhance cooperation between both the African and the Chinese sides in all fields, and to take the relations between the two sides to strategic partnership, inshallah, not that much far.
Indeed, Nermeen, and we read from Al-Masri Al-Yawm, page 3. China says we are tackling the issue of investing $10 billion in Egypt. Ismail says we thank Beijing and we are looking forward to the visit by the Chinese President Xi Jinping to Cairo. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail delivers the Egyptian speech before the China-Africa Forum held in South African capital, where he focused on the importance of cooperation between Beijing and African states based on mutual interests.
And still Mahi with the same issue, but this time coming from Al-Yawm Al-Saba, where we continue to read. The Prime Minister says terrorism is using religion to achieve political goals. Ismail says before the China-Africa Forum, we welcome the communique and the working plan of Johannesburg. And we have a detailed report about the speech of our Prime Minister, Engineer Sharif Ismail, before this very important summit which took place recently in Johannesburg.
Prime Minister Sharif Ismail delivered Egypt's speech before the China-Africa Forum, which was held in the South African capital, Johannesburg. In his speech, Ismail focused on the importance of the cooperation between Beijing and the African states in all fields. In his statements, Ismail highlighted the importance of the Chinese contributions to various development projects in Africa. The Prime Minister also tackled Egypt's efforts to create a better investment environment. Regarding Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam, the Premier said that Cairo is seeking to preserve its historic rights in the River Nile water and ensure that the period of filling the dam's reservoir would not negatively affect such rights. Ismail hailed the long-standing relations between Egypt and China, saying that next year will coincide with the 60th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations. He welcomed the upcoming visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to Egypt early next year. Ismail conveyed the greetings of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the Chinese and African leaders and stressed that the president was keen to come to Johannesburg upon the invitation he received from both his South African and Chinese counterparts. However, some internal affairs prevented him from joining the summit.
And back to Al Ahram, and from the front page we read, the postponed elections today. The crisis of the Secretary General of the House of Representatives increases. The international observers publish their preliminary reports all over the world. The African mission says the balloting was free and the counting process was not marred by any violation. Boutros Ghali says publishing the reports internationally is an evidence that Egypt succeeded in managing the elections. And the U.S. State Department praises the performance of the High Elections Commission during the electoral process. Nermeen?
From Al Masri Al-Yawm this time, where we continue to read also another piece of news regarding the elections. The crisis of the Secretary General of the House of Representatives reaches the President's office. 29 MPs call on the President to interfere, and Saad says the minister did not force the Sadr to resign. Egypt expats vote in the elections of the postponed constituencies. Tight security procedures in the postponed constituencies. Still with the same issue, but
yes,
from Al-Yawm Al-Saba, dear?
Yes, Sadr causes a crisis between Parliament and the government. The MPs say we insist on the continuation of Khalid Sadr as the Secretary General of the Council, and we shall not accept the interference of the executive authority. Today, the elections are of the postponed constituencies. Voting starts in the constituencies of Raml, Damanhur, Bani Suef, and Al Wasta.
Yeah, Raml Alexandra, Damanhur, Bahira, Bani Suef, and Al Wasta in Bani Suef. Back to Al Ahram front page, where we continue to read now some international news. Bilal Erdogan is accused of money laundering in Italy, and Turkey violates the sovereignty of Iraq. Masoum, or Fuad Masoum, the Iraqi president, tells Ankara to withdraw its forces from Al-Mosul and warns from increasing the regional tensions. And Russia's defense ministry accuses the United States of turning a blind eye to the trafficking of oil into Turkey from Syrian areas under Daesh control after Washington called the amounts involved insignificant. A detailed report is going to follow. Return back.
Baghdad demanded on Saturday the immediate withdrawal of forces it said Turkey illegally sent into Iraq, which is struggling to assert its sovereignty while receiving foreign assistance against the Daesh group. Turkish Prime Minister Ahmed Dawood played down the military activity as rotation activity and reinforcement against security risks, while also labeling any misinterpretation as a provocation. The Kurdish regional government, which has forces in the area where the Turkish troops deployed and close ties with Ankara, indicated that Turkey aimed to expand the camp near the main Daesh hub of Mosul. The troops, which Baghdad said had tanks and artillery, were sent to the camp in Nineveh province, some 80 kilometers from the Turkish borders, where Ankara's forces have been training fighters hoping to retake Mosul from the Daesh militants. Turkey has other camps in Iraq. However, they are inside the official borders of the autonomous Kurdish region, while the site near Mosul is in an area claimed by both Kurdistan and Baghdad. Facing political pressure as a result of statements by U.S. officials, Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has taken an increasingly hard public line on foreign forces in Iraq, terming the deployment of ground combat forces a hostile act.
Welcome back, Nermeen. Of course, the situation in Iraq, in Syria, the attacks against Daesh, the situation is increasing and is taking a very concerning turn. So
and about the Turkish deployment of some of their forces there in Iraq without the permission or the direct permission of the Iraqi authorities even. This urged the Iraqi authorities to summon the Turkish ambassador to show their objection. And as in the report, our dear colleague Ines Higazi said that they consider this, whether from Haider al-Abadi or Fouad Massoum, as a hostile or hostile act.
Indeed.
Tomorrow is another day, and we are going to see how this is going to end, but we hope that it's not going to be more complicated on the ground for the sake of the peoples, whether the peoples of Iraq, Syria, or even the Turkish people, as we do not have anything against the peoples, we do have things against the administrations or governments.
Indeed, hopefully the situation will not escalate furthermore, or we do not see more victims in the coming future, because the people who are suffering are the real victims.
The dear price.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Our dear viewers, with that we come to the end of our press digest for today. Now we'll go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume the segments of the breakfast show, so don't go away.